This is a fuel tank that I bought on Saturday at a farm auction. Not really a farm auction per se. It was a implement dealer auction. He has it's a big, well, a fairly big implement dealer for this area down in Springville, New York, Lamb & Webster, and he has an auction twice a year. Auctions off farm equipment, machinery, sometimes tools and stuff. But anyways, this tank was there, and it's aluminum. It's really light. And I picked it up for the back of my pickup truck. When I'm hauling stuff or pulling the gooseneck for long distances, it'll really come in handy because, you know, I can fill it up with the cheaper fuel and then just put it into the truck. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have a feeder tube that goes into the existing tank. There's a couple options that I can do. They have a ball checked one where you can just hook the hose up to it and it constantly keeps the existing tank full, or you can hook it up to a solenoid valve, and when the tank gets down, you just open the solenoid valve, refill the existing tank, and then shut it off. So I'm still debating on which way to do it. I'm going to put a latch system in the bottom and quick connect couplings onto the fuel line so that I can disconnect it and take it out of the truck if I want to. If I don't want to keep it in there, I can take it out, leave it in the shop, and just run off the existing fuel tank. But I'll bring you back and show you that project. Okay, so back to this tank thing again. I'm kind of waiting for some parts to come in to adapt it. I'm not sure in the other video if I explained that I kind of wanted to be able to pull it in and out of the truck. So what I did is I went out to a hydraulic place today and bought this like a hydraulic fitting that it's going to be hard to do with one hand, but it's checked both ways, so I can pull it apart and I won't leak any fuel out of it, even though that I have the shutoff valve. At least it'll keep dirt and stuff when it's disconnected from getting inside of the things, and keep fuel from leaking out, any residual fuel that could be in the lines from leaking out. Now I'll put that on the discharge side. That's a 1/2 inch valve that comes out of there. There's a couple of things that I want to do. One of the things I was going to do, explain to you, is that what I was been doing is cleaning the tank up. I just take a orbital buffer and some polishing compound. I just polished it up. It's apparently seen a lot of abuse or scratches and nicks and dings and stuff on it, so it's never going to polish up like a fuel tank that you see on a semi. But it looks a lot better than it did anyways. But I'm waiting for some other fittings. A friend of mine, sorry for the shaky camera, I just put that fitting back together. A friend of mine has put an auxiliary tank in the back of his truck too. Now, it's nothing like this. It's one of them commercial tanks that only holds 30 gallons or 35 gallons. His has only got a 3/8 outlet on the bottom, and he's piped it into his, and he filled it up in just on gravity feed, it takes a little under 2 hours to fill his primary tank back up with it. So they work great under gravity feed. A lot of times a lot of companies will try and sell you like a transfer pump to a little transfer pump to pump it into your primary gas tank, but you really don't need it. Gravity feed is really sufficient to do it. But as I get the parts and start adapting it into the truck, I'll bring you back for it. Let me show you this. I got this in UPS today. This is the for the auxiliary tank that I'm going to put in my fuel, or in my truck. Auxiliary fuel tank that I'm going to put in my truck. This is the adapter that goes in the filler hose, my existing filler hose, and I'll hook this tubing up to it. This thing has got like a little shutoff valve in it, so I could use this thing without a solenoid valve and just free feed fuel out of the auxiliary tank, and when it gets up to that point, this thing is going to be mounted at tank top level. When it gets up to that point, it automatically stops the flow, and as the tank, the original tank, the main primary tank, goes down, it allows that to open back up again and more fuel to feed into it. But I'm not going to trust that. That's why I'm putting that solenoid valve in. So when the tank gets down, I can just turn the switch on and let it feed through the solenoid valve, and when I think it's full, I'll just shut it off and keep repeating that. So adapter hoses that go in there to splice it into the fuel line clamps and the hose for it. So I'm still waiting for the solenoid valve to come in. Got to get a switch, wiring, stuff like that. But I'll bring you back when I do it. Just wanted to add a video to this segment. I got the solenoid valve in today, and so there's that component. Now the only thing that I'm lacking is a switch in the wiring. Now, I could buy a switch that would fit in the dashboard with a little gas symbol and LED lights on it. Both dash lights that would work off the dash light, and a light indicating that the switch was on or the solenoid was energized. But I'm kind of a proponent of trying to buy some things locally. So I'm going to try and go to the an auto parts store, buy the wire, buy the connectors, and see if I can get a switch there that, you know, will suit my needs and look good. One of the things that I was thinking about, I'm thinking about enclosing the switch and the connector and stuff inside of a box. Now, in my trade, I use solenoid valves sometimes to activate fire protection systems. And I know that these solenoids can get very warm when they're energized for a long period of time. So one of the things that I've got to consider is what kind of box I'm going to use, and the heat that the solenoid could generate inside of the box. So probably the box should be vented, but the reason why I wanted to put it in a box to begin with is to keep the solenoid valve and the connections and everything out of the snow and rain. Now, if the box is vented, probably snow would get up into it. But anyways, I'm going to look for that too. The other possible option would be to, if I can't find a suitable box for it, I probably could mount the solenoid onto the tank and make the electrical connection a quick connect, where I could just disconnect it, and you probably can't see this because it's really dark over here. Make the solenoid a quick connect where I could, or make the electrical connection a quick connect where I could just leave the solenoid mounted to the tank when I take it off, and have the quick connect for the fuel line after the solenoid valve, and the quick connect for the electrical, and then it would just come off with the tank. So let me see what I can find. I might even actually like that idea better than, well, I probably would still want some kind of an enclosure though for the solenoid valve to keep most of the water out of it, even though that I think it is probably somewhat waterproof. Let me think about that though, and I'll let you know what I'm doing as I do it.